part of my dress. As you can see, I placed my fabric on the bias form, and I had to, after placing your fabric on the bias form, you have to get like a straight line. So where you be placing your waist or your half length, depending on what you're working with. So the half length of my client is 16, but what I'll be doing, I'll be coming down to 15 because of my seam allowance. So what I'll still make it 16, then just add up 1 inch and notify that I'm adding 1 inch seam allowance around here. I would just rather do 15. I'm doing 15 here. So on coming here now, I'm just still going in by my 16. So I know that this is my seam allowance and this is my main measurement. So just take note of what I'm doing there. So from 16, uh, my client's hip line is 25. Then from there, from my client's waist to our knee is 23. So I'm going to be coming up by 2 inches. So I'm marking 21. I'm coming up by 2 inches. I'm marking 21. Just take note of that. So then I'll be imputing my body circumference measurement. The waist of my client is 28, sorry. 28 divided by 4 will be having 7. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch for that, then 2 inch for seam allowance. So just take note of that. Then coming to my hip line here, my hip point here, my client's hip is 43. 43, and you know our method for getting our hip is 43 divided by 2 for the front block minus 1.5. Then you divide your sum together. You divide whatever you got together into 2. So 43 divided by 2, we would have 21.5. If we take out 1.5 from that 21.5, which it will be 20 inches. So dividing 20 inches, what we'll have here is 10. So take note of that. Please take note of that. So we have 10. So I'm going to be adding 2 inch seam allowance. So on getting to my knee, it all depends on me. I can choose to use my waist as the measurement, or subtract 6 inches from the hip measurement. It just depends on me, or on how tight my client, or fitted my client wants the dress to be. So that's what we're just going to do for our clients. So what we'll be doing here is so simple. We'll be making use of 30. Yeah, we're making use of 33. So 33 divided by 2 is about 8.7, 8.25. I'll make use of 34. So 8.5. I'll be adding 2 inch for my seam allowance. So I'm just going to connect my lines like so. Then I'm just going to be, so what I'll be doing here is I'll be coming to my waist now. The full length of my client is 64. So I'll be definitely adding 1 inch for seam allowance. So what I have here is, so I'm doing 66 actually. So I'm doing 66. So I'm going to be connecting my line all the way like so. Normally you're supposed to use a ruler to actually get, but if you can't do it the way I'm doing it, please make use of a ruler. So what I'm going to do now is to cut this out. Cut my front block. As you can see, I also positioned my front block on a bias form, not straight. So what I'm just going to do is just follow suit, cut like this all the way to that point. So I want my back skirt to be longer than the front by 10 inches, just 10 inches. So, and also on getting to this point here, what I'll be doing is this. I'm just going to come up from this 21 inches. I'll be doing 18. So that's where my tail will start from. That's when I start infusing my mermaid or gore from. So from 18 inches, I'm just going to measure 18 inches. And let me take my tape and I'll measure 18 inches from this my actual, this is my seam allowance. So from this my actual waist line here, or rather I should just come up and do 19. So this is 19 here, and you can determine how full you want. You can choose to come out here and do your thing, or you can just from here and do, depending on how elaborate your client wants it. Like I told you earlier, my client doesn't want something too bogus. So what we'll be doing is this. We're just going to add up that 1.5 inch which you took here. So it's going to be 43 divided by 2, which is 21.5. Then I'm going to be adding that 1.5, which will now make it 23. So I'm going to be taking my measurement from this, where the side of my front block, and so for 23 divided by from this point here, this is the sewing allowance, that's the 2 inches sewing allowance from the actual measurement here. So 23 divided by 2 will give me, I think, 11.5. So to give me 11.5, so 11.5 is what I have here. So I'm just going to do my 11.5 like so, and I'll be connecting this straight to my waistline here. So then I'll be coming from this 21 inches. I've done this over and over again, but I'm just going to explain. I'll be coming up by, from here, from my waistline, I'm going to go down by 6 inches. So this is where I'll connect to that 11.5. So this is why I'm connecting to 11.5. Mind you, definitely will add our seam allowance. Zipper allowance. So I'm just going to come here now and add up 2. I'll just be following suit. I'll add up my 2 inches all the way. So I'm going to be adding up my 2 inches all the way, even to this point here. So I'm just going to be adding up my 2 inches. So I can decide to stop my 2 inches at this 18 inches here, or 19, sorry. I can decide to stop it at this point. So let me just take note of that. This is where my waistline is. So that's my waistline. So like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and cut, then move my fabric forward so I can have a good use of this particular part. You can see I already cut out that side and I took out my front block. So I've already extended my 10 inches. So I connected it to where the front block started from. So I'm just going to go cut all the way like I already explained, and that is that for the back block. So this is like a new trick, cutting on bias. It makes you have like that fullness at the hem, you understand? So that's just it. I'm just going to go ahead, cut this out, then place this on another pattern to get my second part of my back block. And this is the same method I'm going to use for both the main fabric, and this is actually the lining. So I'm going to use the same method for the main fabric, and we'll jump